Hey, I'm Carl Hood with Analog Way, and welcome to my office hours. So in the Aquilon, you can use alpha key, or what we call cut and fill, in one of two ways. You can do it on the input level, or you can do it on the layer level. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to do it on the layer level, and we're going to start by diving into WebRCS right now. As you can see, I've got a screen set up here. I have input 6, which is this sort of spinning globe, here on layer 1. If I move layer 1, you can see I've got a background behind it. We'll reveal that in just a second once we do our cut and fill on layer 1. Now, when I'm doing cut and fill at the layer level, what I'm actually doing is I'm using the VPU to execute the cut and fill. Now, this is in contrast to using the input processing to execute the cut and fill, which we looked at in another video. When you're doing that, you're not using the VPU at all. It's really no additional resources, honestly. When you're doing cut and fill in the layer or in the VPU, you are actually using more of the VPU. So it is something you need to take into account, that you are basically having to allocate more resources to do cut and fill. However, the benefit is that you get a much more flexible cut and fill when you do it at the layer level or in the VPU. So the first thing I want to do if I'm going to cut and fill on this layer is I need to make sure that it is a cut and fill layer. So I'm going to go to Preconfig, I'm going to go to my Screens sub-tab, and layer 1, I'm going to make a cut and fill layer. So I'm just going to toggle cut and fill here. Now, I could add a cut and fill layer right out the gate. So you'll see down at the bottom of this add layer pop-up, drop down, I have cut and fill options, or you can do what I just did, which is retroactively turn on cut and fill for this layer. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this layer is beefier in terms of resource allocation, and you can kind of see the proof in the pudding here. You'll notice that I can either add 3 more Cap2 mixer layers, or really 1 more Cap2 mixer cut and fill layer. So you pretty much always have half as many cut and fills as you do regular sort of non-cut and fill layers. But we're good here, we got plenty of resources to play with, so I'm going to hit apply so that layer 1 sort of commits with its cut and fill resources. Now if I go back to the live page, you'll notice that I have this little icon here next to my layer 1, right? It says it's a mixer, Cap2, and now it is also a cut and fill. In fact, in addition to this little icon, you'll notice that in the properties, I now have a cut and fill property. And just to kind of prove the point, if I go select another layer, which is not a cut and fill layer, you'll notice there is no cut and fill property. So back to layer 1 real quick. If I expand cut and fill, this is where the magic happens. This is where I get to pick what my cut source is going to be, and then I can engage cut and fill. Now, because this is a layer property, because it's at the layer level, I don't have to use cut and fill all the time in the layer. I can choose to turn it on or off based on the look that I want. And in this case, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go select a still that I have imported into the Aquilon as my cut source. So I have, if I open up this dropdown, a bunch of options. I can choose any other input that is coming into the box, because all those inputs are seeable or viewable by the VPU. And then you'll notice if I keep scrolling, I can also choose basically any still image that I have assigned to the IPU in the Aquilon, right? So if I go down far enough, I will find Squircle Mask. Squircle Mask is a mask that I made in PowerPoint, and then I exported at UHD, and I brought into the Aquilon. So if I click on Squircle Mask, and then I engage my cut and fill, you'll see that I now have a squircle cut of the globe. Now, you might notice that it doesn't look perfect, and I'll give you a hint as to why. When I brought the image in, I noticed that it was not a perfect black and white mask. It's sort of this dark gray, light gray kind of situation. It's not perfect. You'll notice the sun mask just to the left of it is actually much more what I'm looking for, kind of white on black. But fear not, my friends, because I can actually fix the squircle here within the layer properties of my cut and fill layer. So going back to the live page here, if I scroll down a little bit in the cut and fill property, you'll notice I have this sort of brightness curve. Now, all the way kind of at 0, 0 here, this is black in, black out. All the way here at sort of the max input, max output, this is sort of white in, white out. What I can do is I can actually drag these inward to tell the Aquilon, hey, if something's coming in that is not full white, but sort of light gray, I want you to treat it as full white. That's what I've done here with the second node. In fact, I can do the same on the dark gray and black side of the graph by bringing this node in to the right, and I'm also now telling the Aquilon, if anything's coming in black or black adjacent, so like a really dark gray, I want you to treat that as full black. And so now on the output, you see that it is a fully opaque squircle with the globe in it and a fully transparent cut where we can now see kind of what's behind the squircle. There's a number of other things you can do here with the cut and fill property, like if your mask is not symmetrical, you can choose to flip it for no additional resources. You've got some filters here to kind of change the colors of your mask coming in, like negative is a big one because you can just sort of invert your mask right out the box very easily with this toggle. And then you can go so far as to even like cropping the mask to make it look exactly the way you want to, but I think that's a little bit beyond the scope of this video in the moment. The last thing I want to leave you with is the beautiful thing about how the Aquilon handles cut and fill is that you'll notice in preview, I don't have to put the cut anywhere. In fact, I don't even have to use cut and fill on layer 1 if I don't want to. If I go ahead and transition, you'll notice I still get to use layer 1 as a regular layer, no cut or fill, and I get to still keep my nice mixes, my nice transitions, and I don't lock up layer 1 and kind of only relegate it to cut and fill use. It is still fully free to be used throughout the rest of the show, however I want to cut and fill or not. So that's how you can use cut and fill on the layer level. It's incredibly powerful as a feature. You really just want to make sure that you have the resources to allocate to each of those cut and fill layers. And if resources are a problem, then go watch the input level cut and fill because that doesn't cost you any additional resources. Be sure to check out the other office hours videos that I've made, like the input level cut and fill one. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.